All right. Hey, everyone. It's a Pontificators night, and we have five lovely, look at these lovely men here. They're lovely. All right. And we're going to pontificate on a bunch of stuff, man. There's one thing that's been bugging me, and it's there's a lot of conversation about Indiegogo versus Kickstarter. So we're going to get into that, and Todd is the expert at this point, so he's going to give us some lowdown on the differences and why Florida Man has gone over to Kickstarter. So that should be good. We got Michael Bancroft for the first time. How are you, brother?
Hello, I'm very well. It's great to be here and have an opportunity to pontificate, which I do like to partake in from time to time.
Yeah.
So it's good to do it in an official, registered trademark capacity today.
Yeah, we're all full of shit here. That's pretty much what pontificating means, is we're all full of crap. Yeah. So I like your wall there. It looks nice.
Thank you. Yes, I just put that up. It's a very nice, large, illustrious poster sitting next to Jay Lee's Cyberfrog there, which might be, pertinent to the conversation today.
Yeah, it might just be. Well, bring it all around. So my creative brother, I think it was our brainstorm and then Chester's naming that started this whole Pontificators thing. So how are you, Todd Mulrooney?
I'm doing really good. Just cruising along with Florida Man and just getting, I'm doing about a half a page a day. I got some new tech that slowed me down some because it's a different engine. So when I was like drawing, no big deal. But when you're inking, you're looking for a certain line and you want it to start thin, get thicker in the middle, and end thin. And I was really having a hard time because the tech difference was so much. So I really had to play around with it and get the adjustment right and stuff. But I can see where my tech was holding me back, though, as far as quality of my artwork. So that won't be, you'll see a change. It'll be subtle, but you'll see a more preciseness and a different kind of quality in the end to Florida Man is going to be, as the pages go on, they get better. That's it.
Art muted himself.
How far along on Florida Man are you?
I have 20 pages completely done.
Oh shit!
That's a lot. So I'm moving along.
Is that that's a third of the book? Is it a 60-page book?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. Good.
I was at a 3-page a week clip for a little bit, and basically I just have to get back to that now that I've figured out my new machine and gotten it to where it is.
My arch enemy has found me.
Yeah, he turned into my arch enemy as well. So you're a floozy, right? Is that true?
Yeah, I was on Shane Davis's last night for a few hours, and yeah, I mean, I try and get around.
We all know you're an alcoholic, so that's legendary. So I didn't know about the floozy thing.
I'm very easy.
Hey Zach, what's up, man? It's been a few episodes since we've seen you. How's it going?
Things are good, dude. I literally have just been dealing with the Golma stuff, and then Mike's been moving the other show around, so I was like, what am I going to do? So I decided I was like, I'm going to do a 50-50 where last week I would do his show, and this week I would do Pontificators, so that way I'm not like always absent.
Yeah. Are you
still? We're like second fiddle.
No, you're equal. You guys are equals. That's why I dipped out on Cowboy Bebop.
We're equal. I see how it is. Are you still going on Jason?
More equal than others.
Oh, what? Sorry, Art.
Are you still going on Jason Brubaker's show?
Yeah, I go on during the day when he does. Today he did for a little bit. So
yeah, I want to go on so bad, but everything I'm drawing right now is top secret. So I guess I could go on and they can just look at my head instead of like looking at what I'm drawing, but that'd be pretty boring. It'd be like this show.
Why would
That's
you
what
be
I've been
drawing?
doing. I haven't been
Why
able to
would
show anything. So.
Why would you be drawing something top secret? What do you mean by that?
Well, it's black and white, and I don't want anybody to see it yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so we know what it is. Why wouldn't you want? Look, you can't hurt your business by exposure, right? The more you show, the it's not going to mean, oh, I saw too much, I'm not buying that. The more you show, the better.
Well, I tell you, this is the way I'm going to do it, because right now the future, my future is a little unsure, just because we're selling this house and we're going to move to Texas. So I'm not sure when I'm going. I want to launch in fall, Black and White Volume 2, but I'm just not sure. So if I start showing stuff now and building energy, I might not be able to do a crowdfund soon. So if I'm going to start showing stuff and build up energy, I want it to be able to pay off. So that's why I'm kind of holding back on stuff. Does that make sense? I hope.
No.
No.
Zach's shaking his head no. Zach's saying, show it all right now.
Well, no, just show it to me. Just to me.
Just to me.
Just to me.
Yeah. So you're getting the Goma books. Is that what you're saying off the air?
Yeah, no, it's out of my control right now. I just have to wait for them to come in so that and I can then send them back out. But to you lovely people. So
yeah, so anybody who backed Goma, Zach is going to be getting those books soon, and I assume you're going to be in fulfillment shortly after, right?
like immediately, probably like the day of.
Okay.
Probably the day of. I'm probably the day before they're supposed to come in. I'm gonna prep like all the packaging that I can without my wife yelling at me for taking up too much room.
Okay.
And then, so when the books just come, I can literally just be like, is this one signed? Yeah, this one's signed, and throw it in there. So
yeah, well, trust me, it will take over your entire existence. It did this.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping for like at least a week it takes over my existence, and then when it sits out, I can be like,
yeah, take some time
until
off.
people start tweeting and saying like, "Oh, this book sucks. The art sucks. Its story sucks," and
it won't
never make comics again. I'm waiting for
it
that.
won't happen. What will happen though is people might go, my book was damaged, or I didn't get the book, things like that. But I don't think they're going to say they don't like the book, because I've seen what you showed, and it looks great, man. It looks really fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I hope people like it.
They will. All right, Joe. Last but not least, Mr. Thunderbuns. What's up?
Oh man, it's been a busy week. With family stuff and making comic stuff, and kind of crazy. I can't remember if I had mentioned it on this show or not. But Mr. Bancroft brought me on as the editor of the Lucent, and we've had a few meetings, and one of them over the weekend was it was an information dump, the likes of which I had never before experienced. It was like walking up to a garden hose expecting to take a drink, and then once you lift it up to your mouth, it turns into a fire hose that gets turned on full blast. And as the skin is being blasted off of your face, you're doing everything you can not to drown.
Well, do you remember those old John Byrne, like, because I think John Byrne was just writing this stuff like it was almost like a stream of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So he was just writing month to month. And so whenever this would happen periodically, there would be one panel at the end of the book, and any plot lines that weren't resolved, it would be a small talking head, and it would just be word balloons everywhere.
How much
we're trying to avoid?
How much you want to bet that his editor had a hand in that?
Hey, John, there's a couple points that you didn't make.
Yeah, because there was a time where he was writing and drawing. I mean, up to something like 6 books a month. Some writing only, some drawing only, but then some writing and drawing. It was insane.
I think the most was like 3 books. Did he do 6?
I
Well,
thought,
three
okay,
books
well,
is
maybe what I had read was incorrect then, because I had read it, I believe, from a secondhand source, so the information might not have been correct.
Well, I don't mean to correct you, but I think in the day, it would be like 2 to 3 books. But if you think about it as well, some of the books he was penciling and inking, some
Right.
of it he was penciling and writing, some of it he was penciling, inking, and writing. So there would be
Yeah.
3 books that he was pretty much doing all the lifting on. That is incredible. You talk about a prolific individual. Holy crap, man.
Yeah.
I know we talk about John on this program a lot, and I still want to do a deep dive just personally into his work, because just who was it? Was it Bob, Comic Bob, that found a bunch of burn stuff when we were looking at it on the show?
Yeah.
And holy,
he's doing the X-Men else something.
Yeah, it
where
was.
he's just drawing on his, he posts a page on his forum on,
Mhm.
and it's just X-Men that he would have done basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was several months ago, and yeah, Bob pointed it out, and essentially it's finished pencils and I believe dialogue, and Byrne basically said, "This is how I would have done the X-Men if I'd been allowed," and he just kind of picked up from where he left off when he left Marvel, and continued the story from that point.
Yeah, I found a ton of inspiration. That guy can stage a scene like nobody's business. Establishing shots, the guy is a genius. And there was at a time it was formulaic,
Mhm.
but I still dug it, man.
Me
Every new scene would start with like a great establishing shot of wherever the location was, so you always knew where you were. Then he would start getting into personality beats and stuff, and then he would start getting into plot. It was really good stuff. It was really, really good. So,
One thing to remember about guys like him is he can draw anything from any angle, and he doesn't become flawed.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas some guys can't do that. Even me, like I did somebody like Florida Man flying at somebody and tackling them, and it's really not that great, to be honest. But it's a good attempt. But there were artists, even simple guys like Tom Grummett. Not flashy, not a superstar in the industry, but he could draw anything from any angle, and you'd never look like you couldn't see like, oh, that's wonky or there's a flaw. It was always perfect.
yeah, definitely from that Burns school, and very, very prolific as well. Like consistency, like I've never seen before on a really good level. I always wanted to ink him, especially on the Teen Titans when Tom Grummett was doing the Teen Titans. Al Bay did a great job, but I did get to ink a small Iron Man run with Tom, and Tom's a great guy. He's a really good guy. So you guys want to get into the topic?
Sure.
Let's do it. That was maximum enthusiasm.
Yeah, like, yeah, all right. Maybe we could talk about John Byrne a little longer. I don't know. With Tom Grummett. Well, this is interesting because there's been talk about Kickstarter versus Indiegogo, and I have personal feelings about it, but I wanted to see where other people's how they felt about it, because there is kind of we live in a really strange time where there's like a left, right, everything. There's like, oh well, this is the platform the right use. This is the platform the left use, and then there becomes like this ideological aspect to everything in our lives now. You know what I mean? Like even something as far as like wanting to publish your comic book and crowdfund almost becomes an act of politics, and I don't even know where a lot of that stems from. I don't know how it came about. So I was thinking that maybe we could just pontificate on it and see where it leads, just as a basic topic to start with. because like I said, I have my viewpoints, but I wanted to see where all you chime in. And also you guys, before we do go any further, one of the things we do is we highlight campaigns. So speaking of Florida Man, or speaking of Indiegogo and Kickstarter, Todd is on both platforms, right, Todd?
Yes, currently we are in demand on Indiegogo, and we are live with 35 days left on Kickstarter.
Okay, so we're going to come back to that, but we selfishly had Michael on so he could shill his new book. I believe it's called The Lucent.
Is that why you had me on? I thought it was just, you wanted to, I don't know, either balance out the country, or you just liked my personality. Now I see you just want me to shill books.
Yeah, I just want you to shill this book.
The interesting thing going on with the Lucent, I have a never-ending stretch goal. I think I'm the first person to have it. I don't know. At least I'm the first person to advertise it. So
well, let's cut over to the campaign, and then as you're talking, people will get an idea of what the Lucent, the Waking Dream, the graphic novel. How many pages is this?
Well, therein lies the problem there. So the 30K stretch goal bumped it up to an 80-pager, which is 60 pages of story. And that goal was achieved. About a week ago, I reckon. And then I got a bunch of new backers. Obviously, people like that. They like the idea of some new pages. And the total amount has since dropped down. If you scroll up, what's it on at the moment?
Oh, could you?
29.3.
Was it offered during the live?
No, it's got nothing to do with that. It's the exchange rate between the Australian dollar. I'm forced to have the campaign in Australian dollars.
Okay.
But everyone understands stretch goals and all that sort of stuff and milestones in terms of American dollars. So that's where I've put all my stretch goals have been in American dollars. Okay. And so it was above 30,000. It dropped down to 29.9, 29.6, 29.5, and it's currently sitting on 29.3. So now, we just get to go back it again and push for that 30,000 again and again and again. It's like a recurring dream. I'm stuck in a loop here.
You're blowing my mind here, man. I've never seen such lunacy in my life.
Yeah, well, I mean, you should have sat in on the meeting that Joe and I had. I mean, I was dropping. He thought he was standing on solid ground, and then I was like, "Do you want me to drop a real bombshell on you?" And it's as Joe would say, it's a layered story. It's deep. What's the genre you coined? I
called it a mystery thriller. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I like that. He says it gives him vibes of the Matrix, which is apt, and I like that. Inception. When it came out, I was worried. I'm like, oh my god, is this going to be close to what I'm doing? It isn't, but it deals with dreams and all that sort of fun stuff.
So I have to ask you then, because there is a little confusion, and is this an 80-page book or is it a 60-page book?
It's 60 pages of story, but I'm going to have 14 pages of bonus material in there, and I haven't told anyone or shown anyone what that is yet. But it's 60 pages of story, but it comes in an 80-page package. How about that?
Okay.
And every backer gets a 10-page preview comic of the next book, which is called Painted Death.
Okay, so then the next question is, we're still trying to get to the 30K stretch goal, right?
Well, we got there last week. and then the Australian dollar either went up or the US dollar went down. I don't know what you guys are doing over there. Our economy is going okay. So I don't know whose fault it is, but we're back at it now.
So it's the
We had a celebration stream and everything. We had the 30K celebration stream.
so the exchange rate jacked you guys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then technically we need to rally for 30K again.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right,
Yeah.
you guys, you heard it. You heard it right now.
And then next week we'll have to rally again. We'll make it, and then we'll have to rally again because the Australian dollar will change again.
Well, you know what you have to do, or what we have to do collectively, is we just have to really overfund this thing. So
Exactly.
if the exchange rate starts messing, things up again, you'll be fine.
I thought 150 over. I left it 3 days. I thought 150 over. That should be good. I should be okay to celebrate now. And how wrong I was. This swing is about a $700 swing.
Dude, I am feeling your pain right now. That would be a god awful experience.
Well, it's not that bad. It's a bit weird. It's a bit weird, but it's already a bit weird. It says they're $34, for the book, but it's actually 20. What is it now? It's $24 US. So it's already a bit weird when you have to do it in Australian dollars.
Yeah, but the reason I say that is like there's always a part of the campaign where you're moving along and then somebody backs out of the campaign and then it knocks you back down. So these things are like emotional roller coasters. So that's why I said, like, you were at 30K, you celebrated, and then, you got knocked back down by the exchange rate. So
it is what it is. The Australian dollars stay firm. Whatever they pay for it in Aussie dollars, that stays the same, and it is what gets sent to me in my bank account. So all that side of it is safe. It's just, I guess this just means we get to continuously stretch for that 30K number.
yeah, it's a source of inspiration and motivation. Yeah.
Exactly.
And also what I'm hearing is that in Australia, nothing changes, just in America.
Not quite, but maybe in some cases.
It was a bad joke. Okay, so the overall pitch is like, what's the concept? We kind of got like you said, there's the Matrix aspect, the mystery thriller aspect, and of course gorgeous art. Look at this cityscape. Look at this.
Joe, you give the pitch.
Well, everybody needs to know what the connection is, because I don't think you guys have successfully made the connection. So how does Joe relate to the Lucent?
Oh, I didn't know that I was going to be shilling the book, but I can certainly do so. If called upon, I will serve.
But wait,
I think I can say it's the best thing you've ever read. You're just going to be blown. You just be sitting there with no socks on after you've read it, with this glazed look over your eyes. But I wrote it, I draw it. Of course, I'm going to say that. Joe is helpful because he's an outside party. He's come on very recently as an editor. He's going to be going through the book, making sure I hit all the right marks. And there's like I said, there's lots of layers to this story.
Mm-hmm.
The people need to be catered to. We don't want to leave any mystery boxes just sort of sitting around on the floor,
right?
Unfulfilled. So that's where he's coming into it at the moment. But he's the person who's read it. He knows it. So maybe he can tell you his impression of it, and then that will help people decide on whether or not they want to back it.
So the new addition to the Lucent is Joe Thunderbuns coming in as an editor.
Exactly.
Correct.
Not just the copy editor, but story editor, and he's checking out the art. There's been some controversies over certain hands looking like ginger roots and other vegetables, but we're getting all that fixed. So, yeah, take it away, Joe.
Yeah, so I read all of Volume 1, and I read a 10-page preview of Volume 2 that Michael's working on, and it really, as we mentioned before, it struck me as a mystery thriller. And the reason why I said it gave me vibes of The Matrix and Inception is because it's a story that deals with the question of reality as one of the themes. And in the world of the Lucent, dreams and reality are not as separate as they are in the real world. And so there are questions that come to some of the characters about what exactly is the nature of reality, because if stuff that happens in your dreams can carry over into the real world, well, then what does that make the world of dreams? Is it not part of the real world too? And so there's that sort of questioning of the nature of reality. But at the same time, there's a very clear human story that the reader will follow, and they'll see the lead character, Ella, who's the redhead on the cover. And there is a cast of characters that some of the people she knows when the story starts, some are people that she'll meet. But all of these people will have a very strong impact on her life. Whether it's for better or for worse will be up to the reader to judge. And as we're following her through her experiences, we find that in some ways, history has a tendency to repeat itself. And in other ways, because the future is not set, what we do in the present can have a huge impact on the future, even if it seems like the past might. We might think that the past might say otherwise. So that's why I described it to Michael as a very layered story, because a casual reader could read through this, and I can see them really enjoying the character arc that Ella has and the experiences that she has. I think they'll see stuff they've never seen in a comic before, even at the most basic level that they might read it at.
This is really cool right here. This looks great.
If somebody wanted to really like dig into the story and try to pull out every little bit of meaning from it, they're going to be at it for a while. I'm just going to say you'll need to read it multiple times. And even then, in a way, Mike's got you set up, because this volume, it tells a story. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, but it also leads into volume 2. And he's got multiple volumes planned for the future, so that as long as there's backer support, he can literally tell you guys an ongoing story for years, where each volume is a story in and itself, but it's set within the context of a much larger world.
Well, very, very cool. So how long has this been going so far? When did you launch this originally?
This campaign was launched in May, I believe.
Okay.
Maybe end of May. Yeah, end of May, start of April. I remember the virus was all a big thing. It was a big question, so it was probably around that time. And yeah. So it's been in demand now for a good couple of months, I'd say. And that whole time I've been madly working on the colors. I saw a few people compliment me on the lighting and the colors in the comments. So thank you on that. That's like really what I'm working on most at the moment, is just getting that cinematic art style down and across the whole thing. And there's it takes place in certain locations as the story progresses, and each location has a different color palette to it, and that's a reflection of what's happening in the story at that time. It's been really exciting for me to develop these color palettes. Being a colorist is kind of a new thing to me. I've only really been doing it at what I think is a decent level for about a year. So it's it's pretty all fresh and new and exciting for me, and it's really cool to see people responding to it really well.
I think you excel at it. I think it's really well done. It's a good overall package, art, coloring, everything I've seen so far. The concept seems to fit the visuals that I've seen. It really looks good. So anybody who hasn't heard about the Lucent, there is a link in the description. So go check it out. If you like what you see, back it. We need to get Michael back to 30K. There's a time travel aspect to this. Like somehow he went back in time, lost the money, and now we got to go forward again. But yeah, and if you've missed it, you're going to have to go back because there's no way we're going to be able to explain all the hanky-panky that went on with the money thing going forward and backward. But yeah, go check out the book. It looks great. Continued success on that, Michael. So yeah, the link is in the description. And yeah, let's get into Indiegogo versus Kickstarter. Todd, how do you feel, and what kind of led up to the decision, and how do you feel about Kickstarter, Indiegogo? Do you even see a difference? Is it just another platform? You know, kind of fill us in, since you're probably the only one who has done both platforms with the same project.
Well, there is a big difference in how they structure, like when you get the money and things like that, you know, and how much they hold back and stuff. So both of them are different in that way. It's only hard to speak about it because we did something on purpose. We didn't want to do a digital version on Indiegogo, and we did want to do one for the fans somewhere. So, you know, obviously, we're doing Kickstarter in it's a strategic thing. You know what I mean? It was more of a strategy to have a place where we would do the PDF version of it or the digital version of it. And it's only domestic. You can't get all the same things there that you can get on Indiegogo.
So is the campaign just for the digital version of the book?
It's not just for the digital, but it's only a domestic physical. So anything over there physical is just domestic. If you want it out of the country, you want it PDF. And a lot of people asked for it when we did the Indiegogo. So that's why we did it. So there was a lot of people coming to me and going, geez, I really want the book, but I don't want to pay the shipping to Israel or whatever. And so we did this for them too.
Well, I just want to chime in. Steve says it's done. Indiegogo is better. So good night, everyone. Steve chimed in.
That was quick.
That was quick. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One is better than the other. I would definitely agree with that.
Well, which one is better?
The fees are higher over at Kickstarter. Indiegogo is better.
Well, there's another thing about, because you mentioned the money and the way I've done 2 Kickstarters before I started working on Indiegogo, and so the thing about Indiegogo is the transaction, the financial transaction takes place at that moment of purchase. So when or at the moment of backing. So the credit card information, everything goes through at that moment. The one thing that Kickstarter does is at the end of the campaign, then they send out notices to get the funds. And I'll tell you, I've done 2 Kickstarters. This is a horrible experience because you can lose quite a bit of sales because people in that amount of time, if it doesn't go through and actually tap their credit card, they have another chance to kind of, for the lack of a better term, not follow through. And so quite a bit of them do, either because they're just, you know, like there's something that happens, or, you know, there's various reasons why they do. And to be honest, I don't know what those are. I've talked to people that went Kickstarter, and when they have that drop off at the end, when the funds don't come in, some of these guys can lose like 5-10% of their overall. And some of those guys I've talked to, they make personal phone calls or like emails. They send emails to those backers and try to get them back in the fold. And because sometimes it can really hurt the campaign. And to be honest, you know, I mean, up till like, you know, I think, you know, Comicsgate and stuff like that, there's a little bit less of people not funding, but in the early days, it was really risky. You just didn't know. And so if you went through the campaign and you lost, say, $1,000, that could devastate you, meaning that $1,000 might have to come out of your pocket. So, so a lot of guys in the old, I don't know how it is now with Kickstarter, but, they would actually go above and beyond and call people because the bank, they only make one attempt to get that money. So they send out, I guess, a mass email to the people with the credit card that it didn't go through. And they kind of remind them, hey, there's a heads up here. Can you, okay this transaction? And so I found it very frustrating that Kickstarter goes all the way to the last possible moment. And then you can lose $1,000, you can lose $1,200. When we did the original Oodles of Doodles and other stuff too, it was through Kickstarter. And we did lose about $1,500 in sales at the end. At least with like Indiegogo, it can still happen, but it happens day to day. You know what I mean? So you can kind of roll with it and you can see. But this goes all the way to the end. So you're thinking, kind of like poor Michael with the Lucent, you're thinking that you have this amount of money, but the reality of it, you might not. And at least with Indiegogo, all the way up to that moment, So once you close it, then all that stuff's locked in. And then if anybody wants their money back, they kind of have to go to you personally, which anybody who comes to me, I always refund. It's no problem. But the idea is that it locks it in. So the purchase is made, the transaction is made. And it's a I don't know how to describe the difference, but it works better Indiegogo. We got less returns with Indiegogo than we did with Kickstarter. And so I did hear all the horror stories about Kickstarter. And to be honest, after the bank made their move, we got some of the sales back, but my wife is awesome. We just said, we're going to have to contact these people because this is going to be money out of our pocket. Because now, like a lot of these new campaigns, like especially through Kickstarter, through Indiegogo and Comicsgate, we're overfunding, it's really good because there's a buffer there. You know what I mean? Because there is some loss. There's loss in shipping sometimes, and there's other losses where you underestimate printing or some of your vendors and manufacturing. So there's a little bit of buffer. But the Kickstarter way, I found it's very, very tight, like the profit margins and the way it's run. So it feels a lot riskier for me. So does anybody else have anything to say on
I'm wondering how a campaign like Berserker is going to handle that, because this is that problem scaled up huge, and this is probably going to be a lot of people who it's their first time ever buying a crowdfunded comic book. So I think it's going to be more likely to be hitting in the 10% region rather than the 5%. And now all of a sudden we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, there's been a lot of discussion lately about whether or not mainstream companies should be, doing this sort of thing. And, I think if they get to the end of their campaign and see that a couple $100,000 actually isn't there, they're going to be, saying, what the hell is going on here? I think that's a massive, massive drawback. That it's kind of an afterthought a lot of the time when people do talk about Kickstarter, but it's a huge issue. It just seems, like someone said, needlessly complicated, a strange way of doing business, and in my mind, a little bit shady, especially compared to the way Indiegogo does it.
Well, a lot of things can happen because time, when there's an immediate moment, it's like it's boom, 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 you took care of business, it's done. But at the end of the month, people can get overextended. So when that Kickstarter notice goes out, people are like, well, wait a minute. Maybe.
You know how many times I've made a drunken purchase because you've been the recipient of at least 2 of them. and this
Thank
is
God for alcohol. I'll take it out.
I'm surprised you haven't been on my show more, because every time you do, I back something of yours. So it's things happen, life happens, but especially in this current economic climate, circumstances change. So I think this is a huge kind of deal breaker for me in terms of ever wanting to put a project up on that site.
Right.
Go
ahead.
For Florida Man, it really isn't, like, for instance, we have 600 and some odd, like 70 backers for Indiegogo. So we have to buy 1,000 books, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically Kickstarter means, this is no overhead. We're just adding more names to the thank you page. It's really, it's sort of like, I guess you could call it double dipping in the sense, you know what I mean? Because it isn't going to change
I tried that once, Todd, and I got a venereal disease. I'm just saying.
It isn't going to change our overall number. Our shipping number will go up, but our overhead number of what we need from the printer and all that isn't going to change.
So you look at it as kind of icing on the cake, like it just helps the print run, because you've already made your mind up that there's going to be 1,000 books printed. So at this point, you want more people to actually get these books, and you feel like this different platform, you might be reaching a different clientele. Is that kind of the mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. There may be people who don't like me at all on Indiegogo.
I can't see that.
and maybe they, oh, hey, I like this guy over here on Kickstarter. I don't know.
I'll tell you, for me, like, since I did have some ties to Kickstarter going into Indiegogo, I contacted, when I did Black and White Volume 1, I contacted, because you still have your contacts list, your Kickstarter contacts list. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of, like, when you become Comics Geek, there's well, for me, there was, like, I was kind of naive. I got to see like Dan Fraga come to the realization, and now we're watching Shane Davis come to the realization of, like, what you think and then what the reality of it is. And so, you go in and you just think, well, all my friends are my friends. All my industry buddies are my industry buddies. People that like my work are people that like my work. Like, I don't think of things in a political way. I don't think of things in, like, oh, this platform versus this platform. They're so drastically different. Like, I preface this with, like, a right and left platform. And if anybody doesn't know what I mean by that, it seems like Kickstarter is more like liberal. They're more like Democrat. And then Indiegogo is more, I don't even know if it's Republican or more accepting of everything. Like, I don't think they actually make a distinction the way Kickstarter does. Kickstarter actually does police and gatekeep what gets in and what doesn't, which is another thing I wanted to talk about down the line. But for me, when I contacted people, my Kickstarter contacts, letting them know that I had this Black and White campaign, a lot of them, and I learned that there's codes. People that are trying to be polite would say stuff like, I don't really back Indiegogo campaigns. You know what I mean? And that's a nice way of saying, we think you're a Nazi or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like their way of saying, like, your politics we don't like. I could be being a little too sensitive about it, but it did seem like that was kind of the code for people trying to be nice and saying, we don't like that platform because of its politics. But I really, to be honest, I don't see the politics in Indiegogo. Do you guys see any of the gatekeeping or politics?
Not in the sense of the people working for the platform showing preferential treatment to project owners based on political views. No, I don't see that at all. I have seen that many times at Kickstarter, and you could look, I don't know about other product categories, but I looked at comics extensively, both on Kickstarter and on Indiegogo, and there is very clearly a socio-political bias when the Kickstarter staff promotes certain comics over everything else. And it's not based on sales, because the numbers prove that there is a long track record of very low selling projects that the Kickstarter staff pushes and promotes. And then there's other projects that make magnitudes more in sales, and the staff doesn't touch it at all.
And case in point, the 2 campaigns I did, the first campaign that I did, we kind of played the Kickstarter game a little bit more, because what they want is they want human interest. They call it human interest, but basically they want some kind of sob story. They want you to like have like, I have a grandmother and she's whatever, and this character was based on her, and she's fighting, I don't know, muscular dystrophy or something. So I had a character that's doing the same. So they want that kind of like American Idol, like some kind of human interest angle. So they're definitely playing it like heartstrings. Like they want to get that emotional hook. So the first one I did, not that I overly sold it that way, because I wasn't comfortable with it, but I did play the game a little bit more. And then when we did Oodles of Doodles, a couple months later, and we crowdfunded that, we exceeded, like numbers wise, like this thing was really pretty successful. It exceeded what I thought it would do, especially based on the first campaign. And then I remember I had a contact at Kickstarter. Her name was Cindy. I can't remember her last name. And so the first campaign, she was like, yeah, this, that, and the other thing. The second campaign, I could barely get communications with her. I think she sent one email back. And my question was, because I always think everything's merit-based. That's my mistake. I thought everything was merit-based. So I thought that since we were doing well, we were kind of like in the trending numbers as far as sales, but we weren't in the trending columns. Mm-hmm. So then, like I said, in a naive way, I asked her why, and I never got a reply. So then it just never happened for me. So the only thing I could think of is that we kind of played the game, and that, Kickstarter was thinking that we were this type of person, and then they realized we weren't this type of person. So then it just didn't go up the rank. And so I figured at the time that it wasn't merit-based. And the one thing I liked about Indiegogo is, it's somewhat more merit-based with the numbers. But what they do, almost just to be fair, but it's fair to everybody, your first, couple days and your last couple days, you go up in the rankings. And I think that is like, not only do you stay up in the rankings based on merit, but they also give everybody, across the board. It's not favoritism. It's just everybody is going to get that kind of push at the beginning and the push at the end. And it seems like it's a little bit more fair-minded versus arbitrary possible gatekeeping.
I think we have as much proof as we're ever going to get that is, in fact, what is happening at Kickstarter. Anyone who's browsed Indiegogo or put up a campaign knows that's how it happens. Mm-hmm. The algorithm rules in terms of trending, and it does seem to be completely blind. Anything, it doesn't matter how unpopular it is, will trend for a little bit on their first day and their last day. And then other campaigns, regardless of whether they're open or not, if they're popular, as in people are clicking on them, will get up there and stay up there for a very long time. We're seeing that with the latest Graveyard Shift, which is now closed, has been trending, continuously. Same with Black Flag and Wrecked Planet before. These are really popular campaigns, and they're up there, and it's got nothing to do with politics or anything like that.
It's merit. Yeah,
exactly. Whereas with Kickstarter, she's no longer with the company, but you can rest assured to know that her ideology is still infused in the company. She's
Camilla Zhang
has been on the record saying this stuff, caught in the act by, was it Shane Davis or someone, and as well, just in her recent exchanges with Ethan, said, openly, how are we supposed to make the world a better place? How are we supposed to affect change in the world unless we're doing certain things? This is I'm not saying it's her number one priority, but it's her social justice, as she understands it, is a motivating factor in why she does what she does in the world, and that clearly, it has to do with her business dealings as well. And I think it's clear as day that is happening at Kickstarter, and we're in a different world now. Yes, she lost her job probably because of the shrinking. It was a number of things. Kickstarter, we're getting less things. There's they've had big issues in the past, but the virus couldn't have helped. That's what we heard from them. That crowd was very worried to get involved in crowdfunding when this whole thing kicked off, and they must have felt that effect. A whole bunch of people lost their jobs, so we are in a different economy right now. And now she's promoting books that actually look good for once, instead of just hitting the right social justice notes. And it's a different. You're talking
about is the Scott Snyder. You're talking about Scott Snyder and Tony Daniels. What is that? Nocturnal.
Yeah. One that actually has a sexy woman in it, and is an action story, or at least looks like it might be. We're in a different space right now, so they're kind of having to deal with meritocracy without having this great blanket of whatever goes over there is fine, regardless of whether or not it's going to be making the money, or as long as it's hitting the right social justice notes.
Well, maybe with the Keanu campaign and Scott Snyder's and Tony Daniels' campaign, and even Florida Man, which is merit based. It's like Todd's not selling out like to social justice, and Keanu isn't, and as far as I know, and Scott Snyder and Tony Daniels aren't. The only thing is that Tony Daniels and Scott Snyder have brought Camilla Zhang into the campaign as far as a campaign manager. I don't know why they feel the need that they need a campaign manager. It's been speculated by different people that it's almost like you're paying for a wall of defense between the SJWs coming in, just kind of like what they did with Sean Gordon Murphy and things like that. So if you got Camilla in there, it's almost like it's a protection racket. She can kind of fend off the SJWs, or at the very least, she can. It's almost like the good housekeeping seal. Like if she's involved, then how could they be bad? You know what I mean? Like how could their politics be bad? But once again, I do think that we need to get past this. We just need to make good comics and not make them right or left, just entertain people and to try to connect in a more human way versus a political, ideological way, because I think that's very limited. And also it's only the here and now. Politics change. Like in 5 years, all this is going to change. And also, why would you want to put an expiration date on your creation? Don't you want to try to create something that's somewhat timeless, that people can read 10 years from now, like Florida Man, and enjoy?
Yeah, Camilla comes across in the last, several weeks, whenever she announced she's the campaign manager, and then the details have come out about Scott Snyder and Tony Daniels' campaign. She comes across like an old school mob protection racket.
Yeah.
You quote unquote hire Lefty and Guido to quote unquote protect you from being robbed and your convenience store windows smashed in.
Yeah, it's like putting the BLM sign up in the window so you don't get a rock through it, kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
But you know, like I said, with this different environment, you know, they do seem to be letting more people in, whereas before they used to block. They obviously, you know, famously denied Zach and John Malin. They denied Mike Miller at first, but he seems to be fine on it now. Is Doug TenNapel on it as well on Kickstarter?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know there seems to be a change of tune now, but at the same time they haven't. I don't think they've had a massive attack yet, like they have in the past, and you know where they have been under sustained attack by you know the worry warts out there, the Twitterati, to you know take a campaign down because it's wrongthink. And until that happens, I'm not trusting them. Until I see them standing firm against the mob, I'm going to stay back. And when I see that, and then you know they do it, and they say no, you know these guys haven't broken the rules. They're allowed to be on here. You're just going to have to deal with that and not back. Yeah, I'm going to reserve judgment.
Well, the thing that I'm seeing is all these people are looking at what we are doing in Comicsgate. Like, you know, that's where they're getting some of the ideas. But what they're doing is, since they were so rigid in their political beliefs, they can't just join in, right? They can't just like, hey, we're going to make good comics that aren't political, and we're going to entertain people, and we're going to do that. They can't do that because they've dug in so much with their beliefs. That's another reason why you really shouldn't play these cards, because it forces you to kind of do things in a way that's not organic, in a way that's not natural, because then you have to defend your position because you made such a fuss about it prior. And if you don't, then you look weak or whatever. So I kind of had this observation, and it goes in like for Camilla's own, is that one, I know like Sean Gordon Murphy and all those guys are looking at what we're doing. I know it. I don't even, it's fact. But
hopefully he wasn't watching Shane Davis's stream the other night.
Oh, he flipped out. Is that the one where he was getting really angry? He was like, Art, you got to get in here. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if
he was trying to get me to plug the listen. And I'm like, no, disavow.
Yeah, I don't know if I could match your level, dude. Like, you know, but because I saw it was Patrick that was on there, and poor Patrick's like, what did I step into?
Kelsey was in there, and he was like, I gotta go.
Yeah, but I did think that he had some good points. And the thing is, like, it seems angry maybe to some people, but it's passion. You know what I mean? Like, we really, really do care about what's going on. But where I was going, let me read this from D Geek Art real quick. So thank you so much for the $5. To be honest, a lot of this is why I am sitting on an art book instead of taking steps toward making something that may do well on a crowdfund site. And that is sad, man. Put it out there. D Geek Art, we'll talk the hell out of it. I'll have you on the show, man. Don't let this BS get in your way. Yeah, we'll help you out here. So don't worry about that. But what I'm seeing is like, I was calling it community gate. Like, Camilla almost seems like she's trying to create a Comicsgate type of idea, but like how she feels is more inclusive or more, I guess, nice. You know, I don't have quite the word because I don't live in that world. You know, I don't know how they talk, but it seems like, you know, it's almost like a community gate, because she talks about it like it's a community. And then if you read the letters column on what is it, Nocturnal, like she's actually like answering the letters, you know, in the what is the communications area, in the updates and all that other stuff. And it seems weird that you would give her the voice. You know what I mean? Because it's almost like, because she's using your Kickstarter, she's like kind of able to create a platform. a platform that is kind of like Comicsgate, where she can unify a group of people, and that they can possibly, what they think in their mind is maybe do, Comicsgate right. You know what I mean? Like we're the right side of history, so we're gonna do the Comicsgate thing, but we're gonna do it our way, or the correct way. So do you guys get that vibe at all from her? And then there's the protection racket that's there too.
Oh, yeah.
I
Go ahead,
wonder,
Todd.
I wonder how much of it is Scott Snyder saving his ass.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
But she's also projected that she's going to work with other people. Like there's talk with what is his name, Brian Hitch, and like some other people.
Yeah, Brian Hitch was working with Warren Ellis. I think it's just like she's subterfuge. I might be in it deep. The Whisper Network's coming after me. You're a friend to me. Will you help me out?
Didn't Zach call her a grifter?
Yeah.
Was that Ethan? One of them did. I think she just like a lot of them, noticing which way the wind is blowing. We've been, they've been acting so badly for so long now, saying that they're on the right side of history. And now it's sort of coming out that what they've actually been up to is pretty dark and underhanded and has, caused a lot of damage. And, they've seen that you got a guy like John Malin and two unknowns in the mainstream, like Rob Willis and Aaron L. Fetchy, and you got Mark Poulton, and they put out a book, and it does better than the guy on Batman. So they're seeing maybe these guys actually have a point to what they're saying, and we should be going after actual comic book fans rather than this phantom audience. And I think they're just noticing maybe we need to kind of tone it down and switch our tactics and walk back a bit what they've been doing.
Yeah, I think she's doing all that, but I think what she's doing too is her words are community. Like she's trying to create a community, which is like Comicsgate. You know what I mean? It's like it's her version of that, to where she can kind of use these other people's platforms to sell each other. So I think because, God, I forget, one of her updates on the Nocturnal or whatever, I think she mentions other campaigns, or somewhere she's mentioned other campaigns. So I think, because how like Comicsgate works is like we all piggyback, off of each other's streams. We all promote each other's books and stuff like that. So I think what she's the unifier of this movement. So she'll be like the EBS. And so what she
good luck.
Well, I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's not going to stop them from trying. You know what I mean? Like
that's the thing. You got to have, if you want to do Comicsgate, you got to know how to have fun. You got to know how to relax. You got to know how to give each other shit and not take stuff too seriously. That's why this whole thing works. You got to defeat the evil. They're not going to defeat the evil. That would trigger them too much. There's no way they can replicate what we're doing.
Hey, I'm not saying they're going to be able to do it, but when you see the success level, like you said, Michael, these are like big names that are throwing up some crazy backer numbers on their Indiegogos. And when you see that, I know that Tony Daniels and Scott Snyder are like, I got X amount of years invested in the industry. I can do that. You know what I mean? We can exceed that. And even somebody like Sean Gordon Murphy, who didn't he project himself at $500,000 or $700,000 or something on his own show? Is that right, Todd? Do you remember that?
Yeah, he did make a video, but you know what they don't get at the end of the day is that we're selling more than a book, and we always have been. Sometimes it's an event, like Florida Man was really kind of an event, but we're selling engagement, we're selling friendship, we're selling ourselves, and We realize there's no machine behind us but ourselves and each other. So it's a way different. You know, I've seen a lot of people drop books on Kickstarter. For instance, they dropped Darkness, this Top Cow, and there was 25 issues in this omnibus, and it's under $6,000. You know, they don't realize you got to do more than that. There I don't know how many issues of that Darkness book there's Dale Keown's artwork in there. Well, I haven't heard Dale Keown say damn thing about it.
Yeah.
And he's a tremendous artist, one of the best. And here you go. Why not get this guy on one of these shows? Doesn't matter. I don't care which one it is. Start building a platform and start engaging people. But if you think your name is everything, look, Art has 46 years in this industry. He gets out there and he hustles his book. He knows it's just not on my name alone. I have to get out there and promote it and build a base and keep building that base and let that base help me build more. And it's just not drop a book because I did it for 46 years and let's see how it does. It just doesn't work.
No, we got to build this, and we're building it together. And the thing, I've said it before, Marvel and DC aren't going to be able to do what Comicsgate's doing because they would have to pay those guys. And even if they pay them, it's going to be begrudging. You know what I mean? They're not going to like actively go, yeah, you know, my new DC book is whatever, because they're on the payroll. There might be some good phony balonies that are able to, you know, sell it, but by and large, most of them are not going to be able to do it. This is sincere. This is legit. None of us are getting paid to go on each other's shows. You know, we're all doing this for exposure. We're all doing this to help each other's books along because we know that this is kind of our advertising budget. You know what I mean? Like Michael will go on his show. He put the black and white poster up, which thank you, Michael. You know, and every time you see him, you get to see, you know, that. And, you know, we talk up Florida Man on the show. We talk up Goma, you know, which is Zach's book. And then I know Joe's got a book coming out too, and we'll promote the hell out of that. If D Geekart ever wants to get in here, we'll show her stuff off too. You know what I mean? Because you know, as long as we're all, you know, somewhat going in the same direction, it's only going to help the other guy. And the beauty about this is it also doesn't rely on getting Scott Snyder's in here, you know, and Keanu Reeves. Like the thing is, you know, the way this works is that it rotates. So we get somebody in that might not have a name, but then they get on somebody's platform that has a name, right? And then they build up, and then as they're building up their share in their platform, then they're up in the middle now, and then so on and so forth. So then they move up. So as they're moving up, they're creating a bigger fan base and following, and then the new guys can come in and benefit from that. And then those guys will in turn do the same to everybody else. So it's all kind of, it's by design, but I've never seen something so organic and just seem to come together. You know what I mean? It's not like Camilla going, hey, we could do this thing. This whole Comicsgate, it kind of just happened organically. You know what I mean? It seems like it's by design because it works so freaking effortless, but there were some people that were trying to change it along the way and trying to control it. And there were some of us that were like, no, we shouldn't change it. There shouldn't be a constitution. There shouldn't be rules. It shouldn't be a publishing company. It shouldn't be those things, because when you do that, then all of that, like by agreement, like people just helping each other freely, then becomes a burden. It becomes like, oh, we're a corporation where we have to do this. It's mandated. You have to do X amount of hours, you know, with this guy or that guy or the other guy. And so then anticipation or expectations get crazy. And I saw that with Image when I was there. And I saw that at the beginning of Comicsgate, because there were people that thought that certain people should have been sharing their platforms with them, that just it might not even been personal. It just, some things just fall under the radar. You know what I mean? Some things just don't happen. They just don't happen. But then they were taking it as a personal slight, and then they were having problems with it.
That's so right. And another reason why I'm just not worried about these people in crowdfunding or the mainstream. It's because we are just totally on board with staying as independent as possible. You can have friendships and you can collaborate and all that great stuff. But at the end of the day, your campaign is your campaign, their campaign is their campaign, and that's how it's going to stay. And every push that's ever happened, that's ever come to kind of bring us together like how it was previously, has just been rejected almost outright. And that is our strength. Whereas I see over their side, I can just tell already that there's going to be a big tendency to, go just kind of try and bring it back to how it used to be with publishing houses and companies and all that sort of stuff. And as you know, in this space, this is the internet. You get onto YouTube, you start campaigning, people go crazy doing this. It happens every 3 or 4 months. Someone will go crazy. That will happen. That's why it's important to stay as independent as possible, because you don't want to be too ingrained with someone in case they go crazy. And that stuff is going to happen. Their side is not going to deal well with that. I can tell you that now. When that happens, it's just going to be a free for all. It's going to all implode.
Well, also, if Camilla's the one that's organizing, which is what Seven says, community organizers always seek to organize power over everyone else. So the only way this is going to work, because the design, the Comicsgate model, when you come in, you just adapt to it. You don't try to control it. You don't try to steer it. You just kind of get in, and like Malin says, grab an oar. Everybody start rowing. That's all there is. There's nothing else. There is just, let's build this together.
Yeah,
but
we're riding the wave of sentiment that was already there.
Right, and then it just keeps building, and then people that are going to sustain and stay in Comicsgate are the ones that agree with it and then not conform, that's the wrong word, but a want to be part of it. You know what I mean? They don't want to control it. They don't want to change it. They just want to be part of it. And that's different, But then there's like that, and I agree with you, Michael, and I know you said it a couple times, but I feel like I got to agree. I got to say it right now. It's not going to work for them. It's not going to work for Camilla, because one, like somebody said, she doesn't have the charisma to sell this thing. You know what I mean? Like, there's a few people in Comicsgate that have some serious charisma. EVS is one of them, and can sell it. So they don't have that. And I think
by her own words, she's not in it for the comics.
Yeah,
right.
The people who support comics are in it for the comics. They're not in it for the making the world a better place stuff.
Right.
She's in it for that and whatever. She's obviously got to make money. I don't think she's in it for comic books. I don't think she, grew up like all of us, going down to the store to pick up the latest, copy of Spider-Man or Superman or whatever it may be. If she's come into it for whatever reason, and you can't fake that, you can't replicate it. It's either there or it isn't, and that's why this whole community thing rings hollow when she says it. We're a community not because we wanted to have a community. We're a community because people of like-minded interests just kind of band together and support each other.
And there's no mandate. There's no corporation. There's no, like, you're free to think whatever you want politically, religiously, whatever. There's very few talk about that. So it's not like we have to be a hive mind, which is kind of what they steer into. Like, you have to be in agreement. Like the Whisper networks that our buddy Chris Browley mentioned and broke the story, is that what they want is they want politics in things. They want these things, and they will go after people. Like, the reason Scott Snyder, like, there's a connection with the Whisper Network and Scott Snyder, is that they were going to go after him, and he was the next on the hit list. So so in lieu of like doing everything on his own and possibly going Sean Gordon Murphy and then having the SJWs come after him, he's just like, I'll just go along with the program. I'll just,
put the Camilla Zhang poster up on the front of the campaign, and now they won't throw a rock through it anymore.
Right, exactly. But as far as long term, politics come and go. Good comics can be timeless. I'm trying not to get politics in my comics. I think most people are as well. And so then you just want to tell a good story, and those things will sustain. Anything that has a political message, especially that's a little too based in this moment in time, I think will go the wayside. I just don't think it has sustainability, and that also everybody that's going to be part of the comics or the community gate, which is what I'm trying to get going, TM, with the Camilla Zhang stuff, is going to be, you're going to have to conform. You're going to have to conform, or else you're just not going to get the protection from Camilla. You know what I mean? Like, if you happen to say something that they don't like, what are they going to do? Like, are they going to turn against their own, which we've seen before? Like, are they going to eat, their own? You know what I mean? Like, go ahead.
That statement, I'm glad you brought that up, because I've been waiting to mention that, because there's an even seedier element to this whole situation that I haven't heard anybody talk about that I can recall. And it's this: Camilla, when managing Scott Snyder and Tony Daniels' campaign, Nocterra, that's a book with a female character who looks like a female. There's boobies and booties in that comic. And there is a distinct conflict, in my opinion, between the ideology that Camilla was following when pushing the lesbian bicycle riding comic by lesbians and implied for lesbians that was on Kickstarter. And if you think I'm making that up, I'm not. It was an actual book that was on Kickstarter. It was about lesbians riding bicycles. And so there's that ideology that pushes that sort of material on Kickstarter. But then, and she's all about the cause, right? According to her public statements. And then she loses her job at Kickstarter. Was she fired? Was she laid off? I don't really care. The point is, she's gone. Well, now she actually has to, look around and say, well, how am I going to pay my bills? Oh, I know. And here's where I'm speculating. I'm not speaking on her behalf, but I can imagine, hypothetically, that she might decide that she's going to run a protection racket using her clout from Kickstarter and go around to people, maybe even people who were targeted by the various Whisper networks that are in force, not just the one uncovered and publicized by Bleeding Cool. And maybe she, because hypothetically, maybe she's tied in with Whisper networks, one or more, and maybe she decided to go to one of these guys, hypothetically, like Scott Snyder, who's been on the hit list for the Whisper networks for at least 2 years that I've been able to corroborate. They've attempted to take him down more than once. Hasn't worked. And hypothetically, maybe she thought, hey, you know what? I'll go over and offer my protection to Scott for his campaign. I'll get a cut of their campaign, which will probably make a lot of money. And then that way I can pay my bills. And it really doesn't matter that the content that they've got doesn't align with the stuff she was pushing at Kickstarter. So in that case, her principles, again, hypothetically, are for sale. If she was really committed to the cause, wouldn't she only be pushing that sort of stuff? Or was it just...
I think what she's doing is I think she's placating this to gain power, and then eventually she'll introduce her agenda. I think it's a little bit of like I'll play the game to get in because I have to, because I've been knocked down to ground zero, and so then she'll build it back up by building this network, this community gate network of hers, And then, once she gains power again, builds that up, then she can start throwing an agenda. But she's obviously, well, what seems obvious is that at least at this moment in time, she's a buffer or a protection racket between her people, the SJWs, and Scott Snyder, because we've already showed, and Bleeding Fool has showed with the Whisper Network article, that Scott Snyder tried to play ball with them. What was that pledge? That really weird, retarded pledge that men had to promise not to molest
perverts. Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
They had to promise not to molest their coworkers.
Right. Like, I would never do that because it seems like you protest too much. Like, my wisdom is like, if you start saying things like that, you're probably a molester. But anyway, so then he takes the pledge, he takes the Pepsi challenge, right? And then gets crucified anyway,
People like Alex DeCampi say, "We don't believe you."
Believe you? Like, what is that saying? Like, he actually plays their game, and then they still crucify him on top of that. Like, you talk about not being able to win, and the thing you don't understand is why are they even doing this? Other than the protection racket, it doesn't make any sense. And also, Camilla, what's her take on this? 10%, 5%, 1%? Like, she's not going to get rich off of one campaign, so she's going to have to do many of these type campaigns. And also, I wouldn't give a campaign organizer a dime. What the hell is she doing other than answering people's questions? She's not even really going to run the campaign. I seriously doubt it if she talks to manufacturers. You know what I mean? If she's going to talk to publishers, if she's going to oversee the shipping, I seriously doubt that she's going to do any of those things. So other than just be a protection racket and talk directly to the backers, what service is she providing? I don't see any.
I don't know if there's been any stated.
Have you guys heard anything? We haven't heard from Zach in a while.
Yeah, no, I've been sitting here quietly listening to you all jabber and jabber and gibber and jabber. So
now it's your turn to jibber jabber.
Oh, my jibber jabber. Well, Golma, I ran both on Indiegogo and Kickstarter at the same time as well. What I did though was like,
wait, hold on, Zach, 1 second, because I can't remember. Did you overlap the end of one and the beginning of the other?
No, they were at the same time.
You ran them simultaneously. Okay.
Yeah, and the thing is though, is like I did it just because literally you can copy and paste basically the same campaign. So it was like super easy to set up. And I was like, why not? If I get accepted, get accepted. If I don't, I don't. And I did. And I never promoted it. And I still made almost I made half what I made on Indiegogo. And it's just because the Kickstarter has a larger audience and you have a lot more people just kind of browsing.
So for you, it was purely an experiment to see what would happen?
Yeah, it was pretty much just an experiment. And it was just it was pretty much like a huge chunk of money that I would have just missed out on if I had done nothing.
And
it was just super easy.
And that's a point that I'm glad you brought up, is that Kickstarter does have the brand. They have the name. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people that go on those like Kickstarter platform to shop more so than I think they do on Indiegogo. Yeah,
because it's kind of strange to say. They have a system where, when someone backs you, you can actually look up that person like instantly. You can click on their profile and you can see what they're buying. It actually shows you like in a pie chart of things that that person bought. And it was kind of crazy is that the people that were buying my comic, they had purchased backed 1,000 other comics. It was nuts. Like the numbers I was seeing of these people that were like they've already backed 300 projects, and now those 300 projects, 200 of them were comics and stuff. You know what I mean? You got a lot of interesting data. So it seems like people on Kickstarter are running, you got these whales just running around investing in anything that looks cool.
Well, that's like Junkyard Done. Yeah, Junkyard Done in the chat. I've seen him in live stream chats going back to 2018, and he's one of those customers who will if it looks good, he's buying it. And it's one of those things where I wish on Indiegogo the search functionality was better, because there's been times when I decided to test it out after I heard that an improvement had been made here or there, and I can't remember exactly when this was. It's been a while. And I would just start doing random searches, and there's no way I would have come across the same number of books as if I had been on Kickstarter doing the same thing. So there is that. That's one area I can think of where Indiegogo has a lot of room for improvement. And if they were to bring up their efficiency in that area, I think it would be a huge, I think just across the board, I think creators would see an increase in their sales. I don't know what the percentages would be, but I think it would be noticeable across the board.
Yeah. Well, it's like, for comics and stuff, there's just one thing you can look up. You can look at comic books on Indiegogo, but you can't look up like the subgenres or anything like that, which is something you can do on Kickstarter. And I think if they were just to bring their search to like one or two more levels of depth of searching, that a lot of more people would be browsing and spending a lot more time browsing.
I completely agree, because that's like sometimes even to find my own campaign, it wouldn't show up, and it gets a little frustrating because you're like, what the hell happened? I remember the first time I did it, it was like, wait a minute, did I get bounced? Is it not there?
It's like if you have an odd named book like mine where it's like Golma and people are constantly asking you how to spell it, and then they type it wrong and then they can't find it, and sometimes those people, they type it wrong first time, they don't find it, and then they're like, well, I tried, and then then you lose a sale or you lose a customer potentially and stuff like that. So it's like, if you had a feature, if they had a feature where it was just like, subgenres of comics, adventure, fantasy, sci-fi, something like that, you jump into that and then it's like, oh, fantasy. Oh, look, there's Golma, and they need to figure out how to filter out better campaigns that are live, in demand, and not active, because if you look at how many not active, like completely shut down, not active, there's tons of them that are above people, that have like that just started like that week. You know what I mean?
Sometimes it's like it's not even like merit based. You think like, oh, they would want to show these high profile past ones just to show you what the potential is, but it's all over the place. You could have books that crowdfunded for $1,200. That's still kind of like forefront. Yeah, that is a great point. And the one thing somebody in the chat mentioned, like Kickstarter is like a brand name like Kleenex or whatever, and they are. And to your point, Zach, there are what do they call it? Like there are people that support the arts, patrons. They're patrons, and so there are people that just go to Kickstarter that are patrons, and they want to. They have money. They might be of means, and they want to see these projects come to light. And so the way Kickstarter is built with the human interest aspects, then they can feel like they're helping that person individually. You know what I mean? They're not just getting a cool book; they're helping that individual. So there is a little bit more charity or that type of thing that goes on with Kickstarter than goes on with Indiegogo. Indiegogo seems like people that go there, it's almost more of a storefront. Like they're buying, future books. They're backing these books, they're ordering them, and they're helping. They're almost like producers. They're producing, help fund money so that these creative people can produce the product, and then the reward is they get the book. In the end. And another thing about Kickstarter, as far as pro Kickstarter, and it might be the politics, I'm not sure, but when I put up stuff on Kickstarter, I actually got movie people that contacted me, production people, toy people, like different people contacted me through Kickstarter. So I think Kickstarter is also kind of like a Hollywood thing. Like
nice humble brag there, Art.
There you go. Yeah, you got to do it, right? And so buy Lucent. So we're pushing 30K. Michael's losing money right now in the trend.
We got 20 new backers and we're still pushing 30K.
Michael's losing money in the exchange rate right now as we speak. But
sorry, I'm going to have to pop out because I've got a guest coming onto my stream in 15 minutes and I've got to get ready for that. So thank you very much for inviting me on, but I do have to dip out.
All right, dip out, go do a good show, break a leg, and thanks for coming in. And everybody go check out Lucent.
And subscribe to my channel as well. Thank you so much, guys. It's been a great discussion.
All right, man. Take care.
Take care.
Yeah. God, what a burden. That guy was a pain in the ass.
I had to carry him the whole show.
I know. What the hell? But that I don't know if it's political because I know Hollywood leans a little bit more to the left. So I don't know if it's a left or right thing, but I haven't seen as much of that kind of activity happening on Indiegogo as far as video game people or movie people, that type of thing. So just another plus for Kickstarter, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely something to. I think it really goes back to they were the first ones to really get big. There have been, I don't know, maybe a dozen crowdfunding platforms that have tried to come, and then not too long after that they went. They weren't around for very long, and Indiegogo is really the first one that managed to get past that that level of initial success and then failure, and they were able to push through that barrier and actually establish themselves as a solid number 2 next to Kickstarter. And with
well, that was only because too they offered that you didn't have to do a fixed goal. That was their big thing.
Well,
when they started.
Yeah.
There's that, and then there's the in-demand function, which they brought in.
Well, in-demand didn't start like that. That's really, really new. Back when I did a Indiegogo in 2003, they didn't have that anywhere close to that. But what they did have was you were able to use PayPal.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying is they brought in the in-demand function later on. But where I was going with the point was that Indiegogo seems to be committed to trying to innovate consistently over time, whereas Kickstarter, it seems like they don't change unless they think they absolutely have to. And usually in big business, especially in big tech, I worked in it for a decade, so I saw this I don't know how many times. When a company got big and they thought they didn't have to change, they didn't have to innovate, usually by the time they finally realized it, it was too late. And there was a competitor out there who beat them to the punch. And a lot of times you'd have these companies where they had this meteoric rise to the top, but then they plateau and then they have this inevitable decline. And I think where we're seeing Kickstarter right now, they've been in a decline.
Until Keanu saved their asses.
Yeah.
I mean, bring in $1 million worth of attention to your platform is pretty impressive. And so I think they're both valid platforms. I just wish they weren't so divisive or divisive. Like they weren't so like left and right. Like it would be nice, and Todd's experiment, and there's been other people that have done it too, that it's like, screw your politics. We're going to go both platforms. You know what I mean? And then there are people who are like, well, this platform screwed us, so we're not going to support that platform.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, I think they're both very, very valid. But what I would like to see is, one, I would just like to see this left-right shit go away. Mm-hmm. Progressive conservatism. I can be progressive and conservative on any particular subject. Like I go back and forth. It just depends on what the subject is. You know what I mean? So why would I just go, well, I'm progressive or I'm conservative? And then why on earth would I even fight to be so limited? You know what I mean? Like, why would I argue to the point of just going, I'm this one thing? Well, I'm not. You know, I'm a free thinking guy. If this works, then it works. If this works, then that's fine as well. So I do see a lot of pros and cons right now. Just because we need to start pontificating, so we all kind of sum up our thoughts on the subject. So this is my sum up as far as the Kickstarter, Indiegogo kind of versus, is that Indiegogo right now to me is a superior platform. I've used both. It's more user friendly as well. It's you can understand it better. The logic of financing and the credit card stuff works way better. That in-demand thing is awesome. The being able to extend your campaign while your campaign is live, that didn't exist on Kickstarter. If you were tanking, you were tanking. There was no there was no life vest, there was no life preserver, there was no shit. You were whoop. So with Indiegogo, what's cool about it is that you can kind of edit and change and course correct during your campaign, which is beneficial. Kickstarter, you're kind of locked in. It's very, very rigid. Indiegogo allows you to kind of on the fly edit and move things around, what's working, what's not working. And I like that as well. And the one thing really for me, the big thing is the financing at the end, where they do that credit card, like, oh, well, we're going to put your credit card through now after the campaign's over. I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of people that have gotten burned with that and have lost big percentages of the sales. And I've noticed with the 3 Kickstarter or the 3 Indiegogos that I've been part of, there's been very little drop off as far as that's concerned. And the thing about the drop off is it becomes more of a human transaction too. Like when the campaign's live, they can cancel it, but once the campaign has been locked down, they have to come to you, and then you work it out. So it becomes more of like a personal, you know what I mean? Like it can't just be a random act. They kind of have to, hey, would you be willing to do this? Or I fell on hard times or whatever. And then you work it out, and then you give them their money back. I've never denied it, even when people, not that there's been, but maybe one has been kind of belligerent about like, oh, well, you said this, so I'm gonna pull, my funds. But I think it was just like one person that did that. But by and large, it's people that are on hard times, so it's like, here you go, kind of thing. So that's kind of how I feel about Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I do think Indiegogo is a superior platform. I want to back them right now because I feel loyal to them, just as far as the way the Comicsgate thing works with Indiegogo. And it seems like if we're going to play these games, where there's this right-left thing happening, I would much rather like bring business to Indiegogo right now. I never say never, but right now I think I would rather do that, unless Kickstarter was to radically kind of change the way they operated and more just like less of we're on the right side or your politics don't agree with us, because we haven't even got into, there have been people who've been gate kept out of Kickstarter. But I'm gonna pass this over to my good buddy Todd Mulrooney and see what he has to say.
You know what? The Yankees don't care about me. Mickey Mantle never paid my rent. And don't blame me. Zach told me to do it.
This is true. I told him to do it.
No, you know what?
It's all Zach's fault. It's always Zach's fault.
Yeah, damn me to hell.
It was just a strategic.
Wait! I gotta back up. Did Zach say "damn me to hell"?
Yeah.
He's so hard on himself. I don't know why. None of us would ever do that to him.
Yeah, that's hardcore, dude.
My goodness.
Zach doesn't mess around.
At the end of the day, it was a strategic move to do the campaigns on both. We want to hit both audiences. You know where my allegiance lie. I certainly went out front of this campaign and said, I'm CG and I have been, but that doesn't mean everyone that's part of the book is. You know what I mean? And that's the case with a lot of books, by the way.
Yeah.
You might have a writer who's CG, but the colorist isn't. It is. And I'm with you, Art. I wish a lot of these sort of pseudo politics, which really don't have anything to do with comics, we're just making comics, folks.
Right.
Would just kind of go away because, whoever wins in November, they win, and it is a very weird time. It's fierce. It's very. I really don't even know what to call it because I've never seen anything like it.
I never have either. Yeah.
I don't. Granted, when you're a Republican and maybe you didn't like Obama, I didn't get out there every day and act like a nutcase about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really get all that. It's just strange to me. And we're gonna go back and forth. It's the history. You have two parties, and you're gonna go, and it's gonna be this. You're gonna like this guy. You know what? If they had chose Mitt Romney to be their guy, I would have voted for Mitt Romney. I'm not Trump's biggest fan, but you're not putting up a good candidate. So this nonsense. I was born in a Republican.
Yeah, they're putting up, like, I don't mean to get political, and I don't ever tell anybody how to vote, but Joe Biden is a non-candidate, man. Like, it's weird.
I would have rather had box number 2, and on the day of, you lift it up, and oh my God, it's
like what was that show that they would have the mystery box? Like, you could have under door number 1, which is a new car, or you could have this, you know? Yeah.
I knew it was. And I would have just been like, hey, let's take a shot.
And then they pick it up and they go, womp, womp, womp. It's Joe Biden.
But, I do believe we don't, one thing we all agree on as far as the industry is something we love. We have passion about it. We want to make comics. Comics are escapism. They're just fictional stories, or a lot of them are superheroes and stuff. I just want to make something that you'll enjoy. And that what really gets me like giddy is when you comment and say, you know what, I can't wait for the book, or you like something I drew. That you have no idea how that makes me feel, and it's just because we sit here and we do this. Like, I sit here and draw 12 to 16 hours a day, and I'm not, I just am who I am. This is what I love to do. This is the passion I have. I'm not sitting here trying to be better than anybody else, or art is very objective to me. I've never been like that, and it's for you, As much as it's a catharsis for me, it's really for everyone out there. I'm doing this for everyone out there.
Yeah, you can't wait for them to get your book and to read it and, hopefully enjoy it. Yeah, I mean,
right. And talk to me about it and give me your take on it. And, because I'm going to do another one. So, I'm going to do another Florida Man, but I'm going to be doing books for a long time. You can help me be better. You can help me get better. You can help me look. I really, I'd like to see you take this on or do a sci-fi book, whatever. Just the engagement really gets me going. It's what really, at the end of the day, keeps me supercharged to keep doing it, because I know there's an anticipation for Florida Man. That really supercharges me. And then there's the feedback that I get. And that doesn't mean I don't get criticism. I get criticism, and I
mostly from Zach.
I handle criticism the same way all the time. I appreciate that you looked and took the time to talk to me. That means you're looking. That means you're watching. So I hope, granted, I didn't hit the right note with that piece. I hope the next one does. You know, I like that you're looking. Not that I don't mean I like. I appreciate that you're looking. I enjoy that you're willing to tell me about how my artwork makes you feel. And it's ultimately the end of the day what this is all about.
Yeah. So I think, what you're saying is like, if we could just have these platforms that didn't gatekeep and that you could go back and forth without any kind of, backlash, that would be ideal. Because also, if there is two different fan base and different clientele, it would be nice to be able to hit that different market, which is the exercise that you guys are trying, which is the experiment. And, I hope it does well for you guys. So if you guys don't know, Todd Mulrooney is the penciler of Florida Man, written by Mike Barron. And it's in demand right now on Indiegogo. And they just launched it was like a week or two, right? That you launched on Kickstarter.
Yeah, and I'll put the link up right now.
And the one cool, there's a cool addition to the Kickstarter campaign for Florida Man. It's a PDF, right, of the story.
Yes. Yep. You can get it in a digital version. So if you're out of the States and you don't want to pay the shipping, you can get it.
Well, I'm looking forward to my Gator book and my Gator lunchbox.
Gator box.
I can't wait to stuff that full of Gator jerky.
All right. Well, let's see what the young lad has to say. We're summing it up.
Crap. I'm going to go with Indiegogo as my preferred choice, just because it's a lot, as you guys said, user friendly. It makes a lot more sense. It walks you through it. If you've never done a crowdfund, Indiegogo is definitely the one you want to do to learn how to do it, because it's a lot more forgiving with mistakes, especially. If you did a tier wrong, all you have to do is like hide it and then make a duplicate and modify it. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things you can do on Indiegogo that you cannot do on Kickstarter, because Kickstarter is like, once you start that thing, you have to fulfill it. And then if you make it and you didn't want to, then you're kind of screwed. You know what I mean? Like it kind of sucks as you get, like halfway through and you're nowhere near your goal, but so then you kind of give up on that idea, and then all of a sudden you come back to it and it's like fulfilled and you don't want to do it anymore. You're kind of screwed, because those people are going to, there's not really a refund process that works really well without you having to pay for it, because they take the credit card charges and everything. They take that out of your funds.
Yeah.
So they take a lot more money from you to process everything. But the only thing that Kickstarter does have is that audience, where it's like you might be a lot more successful especially if you're an unknown where no one knows who you are. You probably have a lot more success just because you have a lot of random floater people that are just looking, like, people that go to a bookstore, they're looking for something new. And
yeah, they have the brand, and then they have, like you said, they have the more casual clientele that are more like not investors, but what do they call that? Patrons. Yeah. Patrons of these different things that will just support. They just go on Kickstarter to just see what they want to support.
Yep.
Just that.
Yeah. So it's just like, I wish if Indiegogo would just kind of implement some small adjustments to make the browsing and stuff easier. Like, there would be no reason for Kickstarter, essentially.
And also, did Kickstarter just follow suit with the pre-launch? Because Indiegogo has the pre-launch page. And maybe since Todd just did this, is there now a pre-launch for Kickstarter?
Yeah, there's except it's kind of strange. It's not like you don't collect emails per se when you do the Kickstarter pre-launch. It's you have to have a profile on Kickstarter, and then you like it or follow it or something. I don't know, and it's through your thing. So all that happens is when it goes live, like you get like an email to that, but the person doesn't get to have your email to make an email list. You know what I mean?
You don't get to keep the list.
Yeah. The people, the actual person that's running the Kickstarter doesn't get to make that mailing list.
Right.
So it's a disadvantage. You know. Yeah, it'll alert the people that liked it, but for future projects and stuff, they don't get to have that email list to let them know, oh, there's gonna be a second one or a third one. You know what I mean?
It's so weird when people do this. Like, this works. Like, why if you're gonna just copy it, just copy the whole thing, man. Why are you changing it? Because it doesn't make any sense. Like, you can't keep your mailing list. That's weird.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. It's so Indiegogo.
Yes.
Indiegogo.
All right, Joe. Sum this up.
Well, I've done a lot of analysis of both over the last couple of years, and for me as a business owner, it's Indiegogo exclusively at this point. And I was saying this on Mike Bancroft's show when we were talking about this subject. I encourage every entrepreneur to evaluate their own business needs and then do some comparative analysis in all areas of their business. So, for example, right now it's crowdfunding platforms. So I would encourage them to look at what they need for their own business and then compare the two platforms and see, which one has the highest benefit and the lowest risk, depending on what they're trying to do. For me, it doesn't make any sense to, even though I have very much a preference for Indiegogo, it wouldn't make any sense for me to do Kickstarter just to try to pick up extra money from the people who browse over there, simply because of my circumstances. I have the way my life is, I just don't have the time or the physical capability to run both. I have to pick one or the other, being realistic with myself. So even if there wasn't all of the socio-political static going on between Kickstarter and Indiegogo for the last few years, I still would only pick one. And when I weigh out all the risks and benefits and all that, for me, it's Indiegogo. And quite frankly, I agree with Zach that even though Kickstarter, you'll almost certainly pick up more of the browsing customer business, I would say if you've already been kind of more or less integrated with a network such as CG or another one. The point is not necessarily that it has to be CG and Indiegogo, but any network of people, if they're all using a platform like that, and that you've got a lot of your potential customer base through the people you network with, and it seems like the customers are already comfortable using that, you're going to get more business going with that platform versus trying to ask customers to use something new. Periodically, studies are done to see what are the chances of getting customers to switch from one platform that they like to a new one. The results are never good. So that's kind of my take on the whole thing.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's good insight. I think this was a good show. Got a lot done, and I was just, for me, like I prefaced the show with, like, I just wanted to see what everybody thought, because there is a lot of conversation going around, and it seems like everything is one thing or the other. You can't really, if you support this, then you can't support this, and so on and so forth. So I don't see Camilla Zhang bridging the gap. I don't see things mending fences. I know that she reached out to Ethan the other day, and I think that was more or less like a publicity stunt, to make her seem like that she's a good person and she wants peace. It's like, it's always funny when people that say, I want peace, are the ones that are instigating it. They're the ones that are instigating the tension. And then they say, we want peace. If you want peace, just shut the hell up and make good comics. Like, that's peace, right? You don't, I just want peace between us. Well, then stop doing what you're doing. Like, stop being so divisive. Stop being so condescending. Stop bringing politics into your comics. It's not that hard to do. It's always been understood, as long as I can remember, sex, religion, and politics. Keep those out of polite conversation. You're going to be fine. You know what I mean? And now it's like people are just like, let's talk about politics. And all of a sudden there's opposition. They're like, what the hell? Where'd that come from? You know what I mean? Like,
have you noticed the pattern of people who, quote unquote, have already lost? That's when they want to make peace.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, whether it's Mags or Donny Cates or Gail Simone or Camilla Zhang, it's no coincidence that it's only after things look really, really bad that they're interested in maybe trying to look for peace. And the funny thing, here's another pattern. The answer consistently over and over and over is, we don't want to have anything to do with you. We just want you to leave us alone. If you leave us alone, there won't be any problem.
Exactly. And the thing is, they have to make up bullshit titles. It's like there's such a, we live in such a weird time where you can just kind of label yourself, give yourself a position, and then you, with conviction, you can manifest this. So she's a community organizer. What the hell does that mean? You know, what is that? Like, I don't know what the hell that means. You know, you organize a community. Do you have a community to organize? What is this community? I don't understand even what that means. It sounds like a bullshit title to me. And usually, you know, people that do that either have some kind of bullshit degree from college. You know, like I have a degree in, I don't know, I'm trying to think those three, the ladies from Black Lives Matter, you know, they have like these kind of BS degrees, and then they feel like, how do I monetize these degrees? Oh, I create this entity, and so I understand how to do this. So then they go in that direction, and then they monetize it. You don't think those women are making money? They're making shit tons of money.
Critical race theory is an example of that.
Right. It's like kind of like a title where there isn't a real, there's no growth market. There's no real application for it. It just kind of like you have to create like see a need. Well, it's not see a need, fill a need. It's like you have to kind of bullshit people in a need. Like you have to go, there's a reason for this, because cops are beating the shit out of black people. You know what I mean? So you create a narrative and then you fulfill it. Like, it's not like see a need, fill a need. It's like create a need, you know, and then fulfill it. Yeah. You're like both parts of the equation. So it's all kind of based in kind of bullshit. You know, it's not like you're really serving a purpose. You just kind of created this title, and it seems like you are doing something, and then you kind of get into the virtue signal aspect. It's like, I'm a good person, and I'm doing this for the greater good. I'm doing this for the Green Party, or I'm doing this, you know, for whatever reason. And then that becomes the way to legitimize, you know, your position, and also makes it hard for people to argue with. It's like, oh, well, they're trying to help people. You know, why would I want to criticize that? You know, where if you create a comic book and it's good and it resonates with people and it connects with them, that's all that's needed. You know what I mean? Chrono Mechanics are black and white. Galma, you know, Florida Man. We put the book out. If it connects with people and they like it, that's all there needs to be said. I don't have to bullshit anybody into buying it. I don't have to fake it. I don't have to, you know, the work is going to speak for itself. It's either going to entertain people or it's not. It's really that simple. But we could use some of these business tactics and go, well, if you don't like Chrono Mechanics, then you're whatever. You know what I mean? I could label them.
They're a timist.
Yeah, you're a timist. You hate time. You know, you hate people that repair machines. You know, whatever. You know, you can create like a narrative and then try to, you know, damage control, whatever, or fool people into buying your stuff, the Emperor's New Clothes kind of thing.
That's the thing is, the term gaslighting gets used quite a bit. It has been over the last couple of years, and I'm not sure how many understand where that came from. It was actually this play called Gaslight, and it was set in olden days where they had gas lights, and this guy would turn the gas down lower so that the light would dim, and then the woman in the room would make a comment about, hey, did you notice the light getting dimmer? And he'd say, no, it's as bright as it's always been. And then he'd do it again, and so he convinced her that she was crazy. And so gaslighting is all about trying to convince someone that something that's not true is true, or something that is true is not true.
Right.
And they do that just so they can set up this false thing to persecute you over. And then after they persecute you for it, then they try to they use that to elevate themselves socially. And now they're socially superior. And now they're the arbiters of what's good and right, and what should be bought and what should not be bought, what should be gatekept, and all the other nonsense that we've seen.
Yeah, they become an authority on whatever the bullshit, topic is. But I want to, it was early on, and I do have an update for Chrono and for the black and white Grey Capullo Virgin variants. So just a quick recap. We had a problem with our vendor, our printer before. And so we pulled everything out. We got our money back. Everything's good as far as that's concerned. So we went with another printer, another vendor. And so everything is good so far. So my wife just gave me an update on time. She said, don't give them actual times because I've got myself in positions before. So I'm not going to give you it's going to be this date or whatever. But the work in progress will be the first book we get back. So that's the art book. That's the behind the scenes Chrono art book. So we're going to get that the end of the month. And so the first week of October, strangely, the black and white book is going to ship out. Like these all kind of were done at the same time, but these are how they're shipping things. So then it takes roughly 7 to 10 days to get it to wherever it has to go. So, and then I think a few days after that, the Chrono book, the retrofit book, will be shipped out. So somewhere mid-October, we should have everything. Because I think as far as the black and white campaign, we just have to send out those Chrono book or the black and white Grey Capullo books, the Virgin variant. And then there's I think there's a few more books we need to get back from Dynamite, which is the black and white Vampirilla crossover variant. So hopefully we should be getting those from Dynamite pretty soon. I think he said 5 to 10 days. And this was maybe a week ago. So we should be getting those soon. And as soon as we get all those books, just like Zach, when he gets all his Goma books, we're probably going to start fulfilling the day we get those books. They'll start going out. So that's the black and white update and the Chrono Mechanics update. The Chrono Mechanics book, you guys, we are, oh shit. I think we just got some backers. Hold on. I need to update. We're gonna go over there. If you guys don't mind, I'm gonna show off the Chrono.
If you have to.
You have to, you son of a biscuit eater. Am I doing this right? I'm probably not doing this right. I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna do this all over again. Screen share, do this, do that, and then go over here. Okay, so you guys should be seeing the Chrono site. And so this is Chrono Mechanics Retrofit. They do more before the dawn of time than most people do all day. It's about time repairman. Time is a big machine, you guys. And it needs to be repaired constantly because it breaks down, because it's old. It's an old machine. So I just looked at this. I haven't looked at it all day. So it's $49,899. So we're really $101 away from 50K. This would be monumental if we could get a couple backers. I'm going to hit refresh just to see if anything happened during this stream. We still have 705 as far as backers, and we are only 101 away from this campaign being, hitting 50K. And also, if you guys want, if you've already backed, we have, you can add the poster, the bring on the posters tier. You can add the variant covers collection. Those two I think you can add on with your order. So yeah, we can easily get this, to 50K. We're so damn close, you guys. So if you haven't checked it out, there is a link in the description. And let's see if we can get this to 50K within the next couple of days. That would be amazing. So thanks to all the backers previously and all the support that Chrono has gotten. I do appreciate it. So thanks to everybody. So press the button. What button? The end broadcast button? I think that's what Zach wants. Zach's
the back campaign now button.
There you go. Yeah. All right. So is Art gaslighting us? I do have gas. I had a little bit of Mexican food earlier. So there's a little gas here. Okay, so Mighty Joe says, what's the status on the black and white original Capullo cover? If you haven't, I think Mighty Joe contacted us. Did my wife get back to you, Mighty Joe? Because we should have those. If they haven't gone out, please contact me again and we'll give you an update, because I thought all the original Capullo covers went out. So if you didn't get yours yet, check. And if you've already sent us, an email, I apologize if we didn't get back to you, because this sounds vaguely familiar. So I apologize for that. So yeah, just send me an email and we'll take care of that. So thanks you guys. I always appreciate you coming on. I look forward to Pontificators every week. You guys are the best. And everybody in the chat, like Todd always says, man, we would be nothing without you guys. We would be nowhere. So we always appreciate you hanging out. We appreciate you back in these campaigns. So thank you so much. Thanks for the super chat. I do appreciate those. So you guys take care, and we'll see you next week.